Everybody, welcome. We got a phenomenal show for you today. We're getting in deep with one of Michael's close personal friends. He's been with him for a very long time. Used to do all his underwater videos, Lifeguard Laguna. Even though I hate Laguna, we'll talk about Laguna a little bit. You know, those people over at Laguna, they're not in the same mindset as me, but we will allow these Lagunians to come in today. There's two of them here, but they don't represent the real Laguna. I promise you that, or they wouldn't be on our show. And it's Promar Ahi USA Tuesday, gang. We can't do this show without Promar. I got some cool products from Promar to show you. We'll talk about that. I'll show you a cool little video Elliot and I made around the 20-minute mark of the show. And it's the History of Sports Tuesday. We always are here with my co-host, Michael Folks. And today we have a close personal friend of his joining us, Casey. And I'm going to let Michael introduce Casey because I don't want to take anything away from all the great things Casey's done besides living in Laguna. But other than that, go ahead, Michael. Tell us who you got here.
Well, Mr. Parlett, Casey Parlett is we've known each other for what, Casey, 20 years? Plus?
At least, probably. Yeah, it goes fast. Yeah.
I mean, one of the most impressive young men I've ever met. A phenomenal waterman. I don't know what else. I don't really like that term, but you're an all-around outdoors surfing, kayaking, lifeguard, free diving, snorkeling, photographer, innovator, hiking through the. Where were you in South America and you discovered species of fish that had never been found before and you discovered them and they were named after you? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Wow.
Well, I think we met right after I got back from the Amazon, and I lived down in the Peruvian part of the Amazon for about a year. And I didn't plan on doing this, but it just kind of happened serendipitously that I was down there, and this region that I was in was I met some people down there that had done some work with National Geographic, and they'd stayed down there. And then I kind of heard through them that a lot of the stuff that was that area hadn't been really explored that much for at least for aquatic life. So I just got interested in it, and we ended up putting together some expeditions and going back into stuff. And about a year later, I was deep in these little remote parts of the Amazon with these expedition teams and looking for new species of fish, and nothing. I'd like to say I found some huge arapaima sized thing, but we found some little guppy kind of sized fish that were real colorful, cool little fish that they, I brought back, and they ended up being new species. But I remember coming back from that. I think it was shortly after that I first met you. Yep. And I think we met really. It was going and doing a film job out at San Clemente Island.
Yes.
And I remember, before I met you, I kind of, you kind of growing up, you kind of think, there's like 10 different jobs you can choose from, whatever, it's like you can do this, that, or whatever. And then I met you, and we got out there, and I saw what the career that you created out of your hard work and enthusiasm and creativity, and the life that you made around that, traveling all over the world and doing all these things. And, we went out to San Clemente on the Vintage, and it was an eye opener for me that, if you don't have to go down any regular path. If you don't see a path that you like, you can carve your own out. And it's a lot of work, like, as you've worked real hard and, all that, but to the life and the path that you created with Inside Sport Fishing and all the stuff you've done since it's been amazing. And so, yeah, it was really neat. And so I really, meeting you was in a lot of ways, a huge, a huge inspiration for me to kind of go, wait a minute, I need to kind of figure out what my path is and what I want to do and where I want to be, because if you don't figure it out, it kind of gets figured out for you just by life,
Yeah. And it's all three of us, I think, on the show today are perfect examples of individuals that have gone outside the 8 to 9 to 5 box and followed our passion. And for Dave and I, it's been sport fishing. And for you, it's just been the water. I mean, it's always been about the ocean and the environment. And for you, to me, Casey, watching you evolve from those first fish that you found in the Amazon to, being a full-time lifeguard with all the benefits and all the normal paychecks and everything else that come along with it, and being willing to risk all that, being married with a new baby and now another, 2 children, and to say, I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to follow what burns inside of me and make and create with my wood and my metals and create sculptures and artwork, and to leave a 9-to-5 secure job with a family and start a business in Laguna Beach. I thought you were out of your mind. But you have just done a phenomenal job. I don't like most fish art because I think most of it's pretty hokey. Your fish art is something that I treasure. I absolutely treasure. And the trophies that you've made for the Avalon Tuna Club, spectacular, absolutely spectacular.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
So real quick, hold on, guys, real quick. We're live on Rumble. We've never been live on Rumble before. This is our first show. Everybody that's watching on Rumble, thank you very, very much. We are super controversial most of the time. That's why I think it's very, very intelligent for us to move over to Rumble. I know we're live on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Threads, but you know how it is in the world today. So it's super important to be on a platform where they can't block you, can't suspend you, can't do anything to you. So we're going to try this Rumble thing for a little while, gang. Those of you that have never seen us over on Rumble, we do this show live 6 days a week, Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock and at 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday mornings. We talk about everything that's wrong with fishing in the world today. And today we got a couple of great people. Michael Folks on the bottom of your screen, Casey in the middle. Michael, the creator of Inside Sport Fishing. You guys used to watch him on Fox Sports West. He's been around for a very long time. Right now, he has a new series called The History of Sport Fishing. It's a 12-part docuseries. It's absolutely incredible. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll be throwing the QR code up here. I beg you all to check it out. At least go see it. It's better than any of that other garbage that's on streaming right now because it's all about the history of sport fishing, but it's about the great United States of America and how we got to where we are today. We're going to talk a lot about that. Casey was working with Michael back in the day. Any of that underwater video stuff that you saw, a lot of it was filmed by Casey. I'm just trying to get you caught up on what you're watching here, gang, because we're on a brand new platform. All the other platforms know who we are. Michael, sorry to interrupt you. Back to you and Casey.
Well, Dave, I wanted to ask you something real quick. How did you get the podcast started? How did you get started?
You can thank anybody that watched Tiger King. You can thank Carol Baskin. I owe all of this to Carol Baskin. My wife, Kelly Girl, and I were watching Tiger King. Remember, we weren't allowed to go outside. Remember, we weren't allowed to I'm an outside guy, just like you two. When you can't go outside, that was a scary time in my life to not go outside. I was the palest I've ever been. I've never been pale. And I was pale as this desktop. It was scary. I didn't know what to do. We were watching Tiger King. Carol Baskin was on there. You'll see her on episode 2. That'll be when you get introduced to her. And she had a little show on Facebook. And I was like, oh my God, this lady has no idea what she's talking about. And millions of people are watching her. I'm not that dumb. Maybe people will watch me. And then here we are, 4.5 years later. And we got 800,000 followers. When Elliot and I started this, we had across all social media. First of all, I didn't even know how to spell social media. And then to think that we would get people to follow us. Now we have over 800,000 people following us across all the platforms. I know you're going, well, I'm looking at Insta. He's only got 130,000. Well, that would suck if that was the only platform I was on. But I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Megaphone, and now Rumble. So that's where we gathered up all the followers, gang. And it's an insane ride. I am having a ball. I'm 63 years old. I don't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go out on your boat and catch you a bunch of fish you don't appreciate anymore, which is pretty cool.
Well, the reason I asked you was because Casey and I have been talking about Casey's thinking about starting a podcast. And Casey, can you tell us a little bit about your idea for what you were wanting to do with your podcast?
I just think, I mean, Dave and I were talking a little bit before about it, and it's, I think it's, a lot of like Instagram and some of these things I think are great, but I look at them as being almost like little teaser trailers, right? And podcasts is kind of a long format thing where you can really have a real conversation with people and really kind of build out a community. And I think there's, with the fishing community or the art community or the spearfishing or whatever, there's a lot of people out there that are interested in all these different things, but a lot of us are kind of these little islands, and all these different, separated by whatever, life and whatever kind of gets in the way. So, I think any way that you could kind of, again, what Dave's done to kind of create a community here is incredible.
Yeah, it really
and
is.
I think that, for people that want to, create stuff or learn about that path, because again, getting back to what we were saying before, when I was younger, everybody tells you, hey, whatever you do, don't do art for a living. Like that's that's a waste. That is the absolute
anything besides art.
Man, everybody's just there tripping over each other just to think that they're the first one to tell you, like, whatever you do not do art for a living. That is a bad idea. Like there's no success for it. There's no whatever. And there's ways to do it. And there's again, doing it, diving in, putting in the work, being prolific and creating all these things. It grows. And if you do it and you kind of do it in a way that's, and also look at some of the business aspects of it, there is ways to do it. And I've managed to do it. And like Michael was saying, I was a full-time lifeguard for Laguna Beach for a long time. And, it's a great job and all that, but the art stuff sort of grew and sort of snowballed into this second full-time 40+ hour a week job that I was doing. And then did both for, I don't know, 7 to 10 years. I was doing both of them, working, doing both jobs. So I do the lifeguarding at day and I do the art late into the night and on my days off and whatever. And then it just got to the point where it's like, I kind of it really got to a point where it required my full-time attention. And since I did that, getting off the government feeding trough, going into the, out into the real world, out in the wild, doing this stuff, there are challenges to it, but it has been challenging, but so far it's been phenomenal. And being able to put my full attention into it and do it and build out, all the different aspects that kind of chart a course on it and do that. It's been phenomenal. So thankfully, it's been a good choice.
Well, you do such
and do some stuff.
I think in the end, Casey, the proof is always in the pudding. And in your artwork and the devotion and the time and the creativity that you put into it, I've never seen anything like it. You take a piece of wood and a hunk of metal and turn it into a piece of art that with the colors and the way you burn it and just, it's just phenomenal, absolutely breathtaking work.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
I just, you talked about being inspired. You truly, you and your work and who you are as a human being, truly inspired.
Thank you.
Yeah, the art is incredible. I want to jump back a little bit though for a minute. Michael, you guys, when you were doing inside sport fishing, and Casey talked a little bit about going to San Clemente Island. Had you ever been to San Clemente Island before, Casey?
I think that was probably my first. Well, I've been spearfishing for a long time. I think I might have been out there once or twice with a buddy of mine prior, out on his boat, just doing some spearfishing out there. But that was one of the earlier trips out there. But man, some of the other things. We went out to Namotu and filmed in Fiji. We were down off Panama, off all the islands there in the Hannibal Bank doing stuff. Mazatlan. Those are all places that would have been outside of my scope or my budget to be able to go to. And Michael, taking me along on that adventure and the stuff that I got to see and experience was unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Just the wildlife and all these different environments and all the different people that we met. It was a hell of an experience.
And it was so cool of you guys to take us all along every week watching inside sport fishing on Fox Sports West and getting to see all the places you're talking about. The show definitely, even though it was only a half hour, it got us our heads got into it, gang. And it was because of the phenomenal. People ask me all the time, how many people did it take for Michael to put the show together? Well, usually it was Michael. And then if you went along, there was some underwater stuff. If not, it was Michael with a camera on a stick, shoving it underwater with the gaff, with the duct tape to it. That's how
It
it
was amazing. Yeah. I mean, a very, very lean, mean crew that he navigated that thing. And I think that, I mean, Michael, you tell me, but it seems to, in some ways, having it be as lean as that kind of gives it almost, it creates opportunities to be able to do more and kind of tell a more, in some ways, a more raw, interesting story.
It's an organic experience because you're not scripting. You're really focused on, with a limited crew, everybody's doing their job, and when you got in the water what you had to do. And the way you chase some of those billfish right up into their faces, I'm going, oh my God. I mean, you were fearless, absolutely fearless in the water, and came away with some of the most spectacular footage I've ever seen, which I'll be eternally grateful for, because the underwater.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. I'm 74 years old, and I'm still thinking ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, it's good.
I got to tell you real quick, when I told my dad, I think I was, I don't know, 20, 21 years old. I'll never forget, we're at the kitchen table, and I told him I wanted to go to school and study filmmaking. And he goes, what? I said, I want to be a filmmaker. And he goes, God damn it. And he goes out and he gets the Wall Street Journal, and he wads it up and he throws it at me. And he goes, look up the want ads for artists, you idiot. So I'll never forget that. I mean,
yeah, no, I've heard a lot of that too. I mean, it's a tough one, but I'll tell you, but what both you guys have done, I mean, creating these really a legacy empire out of just hard work and consistency and putting it out there. I mean, it really is inspiring. I mean, for me, it's like I said, I see what way back, 20 plus years ago, seeing what you did, Michael. I mean, it was a huge inspiration for me to go, hey, you know what? Like, if you work hard and you do these, and you really have a good product, if you have a shitty product, you're kind of dead in the water.
True, right?
But if you work hard and you have a good product and you are consistent about it, things can happen. And Dave, what you've done, I mean, God, it's amazing. I mean, it's an inspiration for me now moving forward of, getting stuff out there and telling that story and creating that community is just so important nowadays.
I thought I did a lot of work when we were doing one show a week, right? I was doing a TV show every week, 26 shows every 2 weeks, 26 shows a year for Fox. And I thought I was working my butt off. Look at this guy. He's doing 6 shows a week.
live.
He has a show every day live. I mean, I can't even imagine how much energy and juice it takes for you every day, Dave, to get up and do this.
Well, you know what was funny? I was thinking about this morning, Michael, before. I'm like, what's so cool now? I got all these people on the show. For the first 4 years, it was me.
Yeah.
Nobody else. I had no guest. I had no friends. My very first guest I ever had was, oh my gosh, he owns that. Ryan from Sleigh Day. He has those personal boats that you can rent and take them out fishing for the day. Ryan will always go down as my very first guest. And I didn't even know if I could relinquish it. I'm kind of, Kelly will tell you, I'm kind of a control freak. So I'm kind of running my show, doing my thing, doing it the way I wanted to do it. But I didn't have, I had the same 400 or 500 people watching every day, but we didn't really have the audience. Now I have a guest every day. I got a co-host on Tuesdays. I have a co-host on Wednesdays. I have a co-host on Thursdays. I have a special guest on Fridays. And Mondays, I have all my guests, all my guides on the show. So it's pretty amazing how it's come, but I never gave up. I kept my head down. I grinded. I never gave up. I just kept going and going. There was, to be perfectly honest with you, Casey, there was zero income for 3 years. There was not a penny coming in. It was coming out fast, buying all the stuff. And my great producer, Elliot, telling me, you need this, you need that, you need another computer, you need a mic. I had every dinosaur thing that you could possibly have when I started this. I had my old laptop that the screen was all scratched, but I did it and I built this audience. And now it's kind of cool that I know I'm going to have a guest every day and a co-host like Michael on Tuesdays and a co-host like Bill Varney on Wednesdays and my beautiful wife, which is the greatest co-host in the world, on Thursdays. It just flows so good now, but it was a grind. And I promise you, most people would have gave up because I didn't see the plethora of sponsors that were going to come in. I didn't see that. That's not where I was headed. That's not what I was looking for. I needed something to do because I had all this energy. And then when Elliot and I started putting shorts out, because it's all a machine. So the shorts, we put out 3 brand new shorts every day, Casey. Every single day, 3 brand new videos go out every day. And a picture goes out every day at 7 in the morning. That whole machine has to go to build the momentum, to get the thing going and a circle going as fast as it goes now. And it's like a speeding train running down the tracks now. And the really cool thing is people are starting to understand the power. And they're like, Dave, I want to be part of your show. Dave, I want to be part of your show. Dave, I want to. And I have to constantly be calling Elliot going, can we let this guy in? Can we let that guy in? And he goes, no, they can't come in. They don't deserve it. Yes, that guy can come in. Yes, Michael will be a great co-host. Yes. And it's just amazing because Michael's known me since I was a little kid. It's about as organic and as gnarly as you can be because Michael will tell you every day, Dave Hansen has no filter. So you're only going to get what I got. And he might not like it, but it's going to be what I got.
Well, I was going to say, Dave, I think part of the reason of your success, from what I've been able to ascertain, is that you do tell the truth, that you do speak right from your heart. You have very, very few filters. Right, wrong, or indifferent, like it or hate it. People know where you stand. And when you take a stand against something like the sand bass being barred, I mean, you're the passion that you put into the subjects that you cover. And the audience, your audience are devoted. I mean, you've got a posse of guys that showed up at that federal fishing game
meeting. Yeah.
They were, okay, how many people are in the queue? 2. How many people are in the queue? 1. How many people are in the queue? 2. How many people are in the queue for the sand bass? 150? I mean, she was shocked. She goes, how many? So, I mean, that was all your posse. I mean, you were the one that really instigated 95% of that support. So my hat's off to you, sir, for everything you're doing, for everything you've done, for the road that you've taken to get here, and for your determination, your perseverance, and for your love for the sport and how you give it back. And Casey's the same way. Casey, with your art, to me, I look at your art and I just feel your soul being poured into your work. And it's not about the quantity of what you make. It's the quality of what you produce. And I mean, some of the people that you have been commissioned to do art for is pretty spectacular. How can anyone see your work, Casey? Where can we go to look at your work?
Yeah,
I got some pictures.
Yeah, there's the website is caseyparlett.com, and then the Instagram, my Instagram is Casey Parlett Sculpture. So those are both some pretty good spots. There's a number of public pieces around, all over Southern California. Actually, there's places around the world, but the website and the Instagram are both pretty good places to start.
I mean, can you blow that one shot up, Dave? That one with some of his work, because that's.
I think if we close all us, we got our great producer Elliot in here now, so he's throwing stuff. Michael, the other people that are watching it on their TVs or on their computers, they're not seeing it as small as we are. The only reason we're seeing it so small is because we're stacked up here, but the people are seeing it. So
it's spectacular. I mean, just look at the woodwork and the grain and what you're able to take and just breathe life into a piece of wood or a hunk of metal. I mean, it's just. I love it.
I appreciate you saying that, Michael. Yeah, no, I think that the time spent in and around the water, and actually seeing and living, with all the the different subject matter. I mean, I think that definitely matters a lot in art, because I mean, you can get I could get the anatomy and that kind of stuff just off of anything. I mean, you get that off of an image,
right,
or any photograph or whatever, but if you're trying to capture life, I mean, life is movement, and there's a certain way that animals move. There's a certain way that fish flow through the water, or there's a certain way that they swim when the current's going a certain way through the kelp, and or an octopus, for example. I've done a number of octopus, right? And there's the best the way they move. I guess the best way I can kind of describe the way they move is they sort of unroll as they go, right? So, growing up diving, free diving, and spearfishing, and even just being a kid, feeding octopus in the tide pools and stuff. I mean, there's a certain way that they move, and I think that it kind of subconsciously gets in. It kind of implants its way into the artwork, and I think that's where a lot of that kind of happens. And so I like all the natural materials too. So I do wood, metal, and stone. I really like all the different species of woods, all the different grains. And so if I'm doing a wahoo or something, for example, to select out some curly redwood that's got kind of that tiger stripe patterning, for the body, and then to have the combination of the wood and metal, like the wood's just got so much soul and life to it, and then the metal, you could get the hard angles and the hammer marks and the blacksmithing and all that kind of stuff. The combination, I think, for some of these things can be really cool. I mean, like I said, to get the natural patterns and grains in the wood to kind of help tell the story of the species I'm showing off, is really fun. So yeah, it's been an interesting thing. But again, all that time spent out on the water doing stuff, as we've all done. I think that definitely feeds into all this stuff. The stuff behind me, you can see probably behind me over here is that big colorful thing is an arapaima, which is an Amazonian fish that I'm doing for the Santa Ana Zoo right now. And so they're doing this exhibit this is Amazon exhibit. I'm doing a bunch of weird Amazonian species. I don't know if everybody can.
There you go.
But yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we're giving you the whole screen.
There's the tail, but it's about 12 feet long as they are in real life, the big ones, I guess. And trying to capture some of that stuff and to just show off some of these different things. I think art is kind of a neat way to kind of show off some of these, at least the way I see it is for my work. I like to use the sculpture stuff as a way to kind of showcase some of these species that otherwise you'd almost never see them, right? Like I did a shark series, for example, that kind of shows sharks, right? And it's like, yeah, you'll maybe see them a little bit on the surface or whatever, but most people don't have the opportunity to see that. And I think that sharks, they're beautiful. They're a really amazing species. There's a lot of neat stuff to kind of show them off and give them a little time in the sun to be appreciated, I think is really cool. So, I tend to like all the weird species, and I think that's reflected in all the different things I've done. There's some odd different species I've done over the years, but I think it's really cool, and to kind of try and tell their story and to kind of show them off has really been fun.
Tell me a little bit about your shark exhibit.
That was good. Well, that one was, I did that. I wanted to kind of show some of the other species because, most people, you talk to them and they think sharks, they only think white sharks, but we've got, as you guys know, there's dozens of different species that are just off our coast here in California. And I really wanted to kind of show off some of the lesser known species that, we know about it, but your average person doesn't know much about a thresher shark or maybe even a hammerhead or a blue shark or whatever. And those are all things that I've enjoyed seeing over the years. And and it's been a really interesting. But anyhow, that was a really an interesting thing to get that out there and show those off, And so I did them out as. And, they were publicly exhibited in front of Laguna Beach for a little while. And then they ended up getting sold, but that was how that all kind of happened.
That was pretty cool. Cool.
We're gonna show you in a minute, Seawolf. We're gonna talk about that real quick, though. I got to just show everybody. Without Promar, can't do the show. Promar's a huge sponsor of your Saltwater Guide. They absolutely get social media. They understand this whole thing, and they've been a big supporter of us for a very long time. I want to show you guys this jig. This is the Akara jig. We've been talking about this for a couple of months. Well, we've been talking about it longer than that, but we're really talking about it a lot right now because We got the PCS coming. We got the PCS show. There's going to be specials all over there. But you watch Justin on his live shows. You watch Matt Ryan yesterday if you're part of the community, catching sand bass and spotted bay bass on this Akara jig. Now look at this lure. This thing looks just like the bait fish. It looks exactly like the bait fish. And there's a little baby mackerel right here. And yesterday I showed you guys the little Spanish mackerel. This is a little greenback mackerel. The colors on these things,
Amazing.
the way that it imitates the fish, the way that it works, it's kind of set up the same way as a slow pitch or vertical jigging, but small, not big, giant, heavy. You could do this on your little spinning rods, trout rods. I know these things, they got real small ones, big, little bit bigger than this. These are the 20 grams, but these things will catch everything that swims. The way that these things swim through the water, it's incredible. The first day Justin tried it, Michael, we watched him unwrap it, watched him walk to the back of his boat on his dock, no editing, live on the show, dropped it in the water, caught a yellowfin croaker the moment it touched the bottom. This is an amazing lure. You guys got to try these. You got to check them out. You can see this whole display at the Turner's booth at the PCS show, the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival, which starts 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th at the Orange County Fairgrounds, gang. You don't want to miss the show. You don't want to miss your opportunity to pick up a bunch of cool stuff from Promar. They're going to be having specials like crazy. I'll give you the QR code if you want to order them now and have them now, or you can go to the show and get them at the special at the show. But we got 15% off all the Promar products. There's your QR code right there on the screen. Jump on these, get them. You won't be disappointed. You'll have a great time. I've caught bonefish, pargo, halibut on these. They're just the lure that keeps on giving. So check them out. Go to Promar website right there with the QR code, or go to PromarAhiUSA.com. Those of you that are listening, driving around in your car, you won't be disappointed. I promise you. Check them out. And thank you, Promar, for everything you do for us. And gang, if you show up at the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival wearing one of my shirts or one of my hats, or like Seawolf, pair of my underwear, he was showing those off the other night on the live show. Whatever I have so much. We have over 100 SKUs on the website of stuff you can buy, that swag that represents your saltwater guide. If you show up at the show with any of that, you're going to get free stuff from Promar, Okuma. You're going to get free stuff from Deckhand Sports. You won't believe all the people that support your saltwater guide. And the people that support us are the people that understand social media. And the rest, they're coming. If Elliot and I will allow them in, they'll be over here. You'll see. It's all about allowing the product into our world now. That's all it's about. And Promar, you're not going anywhere. Thank you and I'll be at the ICAST show with Promar. They take me with them every year to ICAST because they understand the power. When I'm hanging out in the booth, you got people from Australia and New Zealand and Florida and Texas coming up going, I love what you do, Dave. I love your stuff. You're funny. And it blows their minds. They're like, Dave Hansen, that guy from, wow, all these people want to listen. Well, I don't have 800,000 followers on accident, gang. Somebody likes watching my stuff. We don't get 50 million views a month because no one's watching. And it ain't because of some silly helicopter video, no matter what the booger eaters are telling you. So, all right, gang. Well, Promar's a big sponsor of us, but let's go back to Casey and Michael. And I want to talk about your art, and they can see it over on Instagram, but really I want to get back into this fishing thing. When you guys were traveling and you guys were Casey, you were jumping in the water. Michael was standing on the deck. What was the craziest? Did you go to Midway Island with Michael?
I wish.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
was like an all-time one. Yeah.
Because that Alua thing would have been bitching to be in the water to see those things, except they probably would have ate you.
Yeah, I had one fucking bite the mask right off the side of my head. Boom.
Oh.
A little piece of silver tape on it mistakenly, and he came up and just tore the mask right off my face. Another one came up and headbutted me right in the ribs. I mean, those GTs are aggressive. But Casey, I think when you jumped in the water down there in the middle of Panama.
Yeah, that's a funny story. Yeah. With that, I think it was Blue Marlin, right?
Blue Marlin. Yep.
Yeah, that was a funny one. That was so we were fishing. It was down off the Hannibal Bank. that area off Panama was amazing. I mean, I was unaware of how many islands are down there, but that was unbelievable. But there was a lady that hooked into probably a 400 or 500 pound blue marlin.
Yep,
And she was fishing on it for a while, but I think the chair that she was in broke, and then she was pretty exhausted on it. So like I think they'd all kind of traded around. Michael radioed over to me. I was in a different boat. Hey, we got a fish on, whatever. So I came over there and I was going to film it, but it wasn't up close enough, whatever. And I think she was exhausted. So I think I had my freediving fins on and the camera, but we wanted to get the footage. So I was reeling on that marlin to get it up to the boat with the freediving fins on, so I could quickly hand it off to her, hop in the water, get some footage of this thing, and then get back up and reel it in more and do it. But it was that was a hell of a fish, and that was the first time I'd swam with a marlin, especially one that big.
That big.
And right? With the camera, the underwater stuff, unless it's right there, like right next to it,
3 inches is 3
feet. It's a million miles away. So, I got right up on that fish and got in there, and it basically kind of bitch slapped me with its tail in the face a little bit as it kind of swam by, and we got some good footage off it, thankfully. But yeah, the funny part about that is that I think you were filming me fishing with my big long freediving fins on in the back of the boat. And unbeknownst to me, and that ended up making it into the show, which was hilarious. And I think my cousin, somebody saw that and they filmed that and they put that on YouTube, just that part of me fishing with my fins on or whatever. But that was just one of the things. I mean, again, we talk about how dynamic that show was and how much flexibility you built into it just to tell the real story of what was really happening. And there's a lot of funny stuff. I mean, we did that. We kayaked up I went back up into the interior and found that crocodile skull, and I think that made it into the show, and saw some great fish. It just, the storytelling, Michael, that you did and all that was really neat, and seeing what really happened and then seeing how that translated to you telling a real story, that real, like it wasn't like when I saw the show, it wasn't like, oh man, like that's kind of seems different than what I experienced. It was like exactly what really happened. And
we've always said, show me, don't tell me. So the whole show has been based on visuals, and we've always tried to visually tell the story. My rule of thumb is show me, don't tell me. If you have to tell me something, it doesn't do me any good. But if you can show me what you've done, then we can tell a story about it. And Casey, for those that don't know, your diving fins, your free diving fins are what, 4.5 feet long?
Yeah, it made fishing really challenging. They're probably 4 feet long.
Yeah, they're not duck feet or something. These are massive fins, and you're sitting on the back of the deck with these 4-foot floppers trying to fight this marlin.
Well, they're so hard to put on and off that I just figured, fuck it, I'll just leave them on so I could get this boat, because the fish comes up by the boat and it's there for a second. As soon as the diver's in the water, the fish doesn't want to have anything to do with that, and they bail again. But yeah, I wanted to be able to do it and do that handoff. That trip was a great trip. I remember also on that trip I was filming. Somebody hooked into a big, huge tuna down there. And I got out to the boat. I'm there, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna film this tuna, and I hop in the water, and I kind of clear my mask and look down, and it was like hundreds and hundreds of it was just jellyfish everywhere. So there's all these little strands of streamers of
blue meanies.
Unfortunately, it wasn't really bad, but it's like a little electric zap. So every couple seconds or minutes or whatever, it's like you get a little jellyfish sting. But I think we got the footage for that too, and it was again, with you're telling that story, if we don't get the footage, you can't show them anything. It's like it didn't happen. And so it was always really important to get that footage and kind of be able to tell the story of what was really happening in these incredible exotic places. So it was really fun.
Yeah, it was a good run.
That was fun.
Yeah,
that was really fun. Yeah.
And we're
But
talking with Michael Folks here, the history of sport fishing, his good buddy Casey. What we got to remember though, gang, is we're talking about old footage of the show Inside Sport Fishing. But if you become a member of the history of sport fishing, you're going to get to attain some of these old shows that we're talking about. You're going to get to see some of this stuff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you more of Casey's art here as we're talking. I'm going to throw the QR code up so you can get involved in the history of sport fishing. And then you'll be able to see some of this footage that Michael and Casey are talking about right now. And there's just so much cool stuff. When you become part of the history of sport fishing, you actually get involved in what Casey's talking about, Michael's world. A lot of you have never been introduced because a lot of you got into fishing in 2015 when that bluefin showed up, and all of a sudden everybody and their mother started fishing. And then the next big move was when they told us that you couldn't go outside and you had to put on a paper diaper. Then all of a sudden the rest of us got into fishing, and golf and fishing grew like crazy. So a lot of you missed the history of sport fishing. Missed inside sport fishing. That's what we're talking about right now. But Michael, let them know that they can get parts of that with the subscription to the history of sport fishing, right?
Yes, sir. That's part of the package. We put a VIP package together, so you can buy an episode for $5, or you can see the whole package of 12, which is a 12-hour series on the history of sport fishing as a bundle. And then for another $25, you get 35 hours of the best of inside sport fishing. So what we did was we combined like the Panama trip, and it was like 4 or 5 half-hour shows. We put those all together into a 1-hour film. Same with Midway, Jig Chucker's Ball, some of the classics, Big Boat, Big Fish, Deep Color, Tribute to Tuna, Marlin Off the Rock. So as the part of the VIP package, you've got access to 35 hours of the best of the inside sport fishing films, a lot of which Casey was responsible for doing the spectacular underwater work, which I've always felt made the show.
One thing I want to hold on. One thing I want to tell everybody is I was literally back in the day, I was kind of in a fog and we were watching TV and the history or the tribute to tuna came on, and I was a bad boy back in those days and we were kind of in and out of it. And I was like, that sounds like my friend Michael Folks's voice. What the heck's he doing on my TV? I'm like, what is this? And I remember talking to you and I'm like, hey, did you make a show about lift pole and tuna? And you're like, yeah, that was me. I'm like, wow, it sounded like you.
That was the first voiceover I ever did. I was a nervous wreck.
Oh, you did such a beautiful job, gang. If you haven't had an opportunity to see that, that's going to make you. And Dan Smith, you were there in the racks. I wasn't there, but my buddy Dan was. He commercial fish tuna. That's a big deal. See those guys work the way they worked. That was pretty spectacular, the way you put that story together. I thought of that immediately when Casey was talking about how well you put stories together. That story is insane.
That's a pretty good story. I love telling stories. Hey, David, I want to ask you about that little mini bait that you were just showing from Promar. Yeah, it's like, there's a lot of times when we're out there on the tuna, and you can tell they're on 2 eyeballs and a wiggle.
Oh,
they're not biting on anything more than 2 eyeballs and a wiggle. That looks like it would actually entertain some bigger fish.
Oh, absolutely. You just better have the right 40-pound braid. It's going to be hard to break 40-pound braid. You could cast this a mile with 40-pound braid. You could throw right into the foamer pinhead. You better be ready though, because you're going to get bit. There's no way they're not going to eat that in a
I was thinking,
foamer of pinheads.
We've never had a mini bait that I've seen that worked before.
And it's so small, and it still weighs 20 grams.
So you can cast it with 40. Huh? Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. And we know what grams are. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud?
No, not on live TV here.
Oh, yeah, terrible day. Well, I'm on Rumble now, so I don't have nothing to worry about.
Right on.
Yeah.
But Michael,
the stuff
sorry.
Go ahead.
I just think that the history of sport fish. I mean, again, we're talking about a lot of people getting into fishing, recently that maybe don't know the history, that don't know how far back, all this stuff goes, don't know where it all came from, don't know all of it. I mean, what you've put together, Michael, is unbelievable. I mean, the history of sport fishing is like, that's the holy grail of fishing. I mean, it tells that story so well. And I mean, and that plus all the years of inside sport fishing and stuff. I mean, all of that info is such a rich source of information for anybody that loves the sport, or that even wants to learn about the sport. I mean, there's nowhere, I don't know anywhere else that somebody could go that they could get a more rich, deep dive source into the history of fishing.
Thanks, Casey. I appreciate that. It's a deep dive into the sport. 12 hours of history is a lot, but I felt like we've always cut to content, and we had good content, so we kept telling the story. And I worked with a woman back east named Tammy Ebbets Hahn, whose dad actually filmed or shot that picture of the 13 men on a beam overlooking New York Rockefeller Plaza in 1938 or something. Those guys, men on a beam. Her dad shot that picture, and he was the staff photographer for the Miami Herald in the 30s and 40s. And so he shot, and he loved to fish. He shot presidents and Ted Williams and celebrities, and he was just a phenomenal photographer. She called me when she saw the website and said, "Hey, my dad's got some old pictures that might fit into your story. If you could use them, I'd be glad to send them to you." So she just volunteered to send me some pictures. We started talking, and the next thing I know, we've teamed up, and she really became the driving force behind the film in terms of the research and the writing. She I had sort of a 40,000 foot elevation, and she was drilling down into the microscopic, Lee and Joan Wolfe, and I mean some of the things in the fly fishing world that neither one of us really knew anything about, and we teamed up with the Dr. Terry Battisti, who, along with Ray Scott and Ken Duke, who worked together. Those guys have forgotten more about bass fishing than I ever know. So we were able to source a lot of really, really good people, including Mr. Hansen here. He gave us a little opening to the movie. Frank, Bill Shedd. We've got we cover Bill Poole, and a lot of the guys on the East Coast too. I'm starting to get emails now I got an email yesterday from a guy in North Florida that said, "Oh my God, I've watched the series back to back twice. I can't turn it off. It's the most spectacular thing I've ever seen." He runs a charter boat out of Florida. Another guy from Connecticut wrote me. He says, my son and I are just absolutely glued to your series. I can't believe how comprehensive it is. So it's really neat seeing people from outside of the Southern California market, which, all three of us have basically grown up in. It's really wonderful to start seeing, and I'm sure David feels the same way with 800 million freaking followers, that people from all over the world are enjoying the sport through our eyes to a certain degree. And it's thank you for those kind words, though, Casey. I feel the same way about you and your artwork. It's a legacy that's going to be around for generations after we're gone. Now, Mr. Hansen's podcast, I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, well, Dan and Kim, they said the VIP part of this is the best thing going. If you purchase that, gang, 99.9% of this stuff is stuff that you've never seen, didn't even know about. Casey, I want to talk about one part of Michael's show. We talk about it every week because it's so important right now to understand, because we are in a point in our government where we've never been before in our short time on the planet. And no one's ever seen what's going on right now. So when you look at the history of sport fishing and you find out that, and Michael will talk more about it, but right now, this is it's so important for this to be happening right now because they signed the Declaration of Independence inside of the oldest fish club in the United States of America, and they hid in there to sign this thing. And right now, it couldn't be more important to know about the history of the United States of America and the tyranny that was going on and why we started the United States of America. So that's another part of Michael's phenomenal storytelling that grabbed me, because I'm just going to be honest, Casey, when I was a kid, I forgot to go to school. I was one of those kids that didn't go. I forgot. They're like, "Hey, you didn't go to school today." Yeah, I totally forgot. All I wanted to do was fish, like my buddy Devin Cruz says.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to do. That was the worst thing that happened to us was my dad. When we met my dad, and then he's fishing every day. I don't want to go to school. I want to go out on the boats. But when I learned about the Declaration of Independence being signed at that fish club, Michael, that grabbed me right now for what's going on in the world today.
Me too. Me too. Those guys are forefathers. Guys like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and Paul Revere. Some of the guys you may have heard of, George Washington. These guys were all fly fishermen. And back in 1732, they formed this little club on the banks of the Schuylkill River, which is now Philadelphia. And they formed a fishing club so they could get together and talk about, and they wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution from this fishing club under the guise of a fishing club, because had they been caught, they would have been hung for treason by the British. So our forefathers, the guys that wrote our Constitution were all fishermen, and they wrote it under the guise of a fishing club, which I just thought was fascinating.
It's super fascinating.
It's absolutely amazing. So Casey, steer these guys. How can they find your stuff? You got an Instagram page or Facebook or TikTok, or what do you got?
Yep. Instagram is Casey Parlett Sculpture, and my website's just caseyparlett.com. Cool. So, but yeah, it's just a lot of fun work. I work in wood, metal, and stone. I do it because it's a celebration of nature. And I think, your audience obviously loves being outside, being in nature and seeing all that stuff. So, they might enjoy seeing all this stuff.
Oh, I think they'll love it. And then are you going to be able to make a guest celebrity appearance at the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival?
That'd be fun. Yeah,
well,
let's talk about it.
Maybe we want to grab a piece or two and bring it to the show and just hang out, and shake hands and kiss babies. Michael might make a guest celebrity appearance.
Go up together, Casey.
Let's figure it out. Yeah, let's make it happen. That'd be fun.
How about that, David?
That would be awesome, and everybody would love to meet you. There's going to be a massive crowd on Saturday. It's going to be crazy because why the show's going on, I get to speak every day there, but we're having a mullet contest that day. This 63-year-old man's going to be sporting his mullet, and we're giving away a free trip on Justin's boat for the best mullet of the day on Saturday. Saturday is going to be crazy, and then Saturday night, hopefully we're having a little bit of a party. It's not set in stone yet, so I don't want to announce it for sure, but it's looking like we're going to have a party on Saturday night there too. So we'll see what happens, but I would love for you two to be in the booth for a few hours. And that'd be great. Awesome. Give Michael a ride because Kim doesn't allow him to drive anymore. So,
all right. Well, that'd be good. Get some good cab time. We could get caught up.
A little bit caught up. Hey, Casey, real quick before we get off the air, if somebody wanted to become an artist, if somebody was thinking about doing work that you've done or that you've created, what would you suggest? How do they start? What would you recommend, or how would you suggest somebody get started in a path that follows their passion?
Man, well, it's so different for every different thing that people get into. I'd say the number one thing that you should do if you are interested in doing some creative pursuit is to not listen to what other people tell you. Because if you do not do what other people tell you, you can listen. It's good to take people's advice, whatever, but do what seems right and feels right for you. Because, if I would have listened to what everybody said, you end up doing nothing because everything everybody says contradicts everything everybody else says, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the number one thing is just doing it, and it's really easy to talk about doing stuff. It's really easy to think about doing stuff or whatever. Going out and actually doing it is the hard part, but that's where stuff actually happens, and it's all theory until you go out and do it. And so, I think just doing stuff, being prolific, and then just taking those little steps and growing from there. No matter what you're doing, I'd say that's the start, is just get started on a path. No matter, even if you're taking wrong steps, you learn a lot. I've learned a lot from screwing up.
Yeah, I think the most valuable lessons are the ones that we've learned when we've screwed up.
It's better than a college education, that's for sure. So it's, I've learned a lot from my screw ups and also from some of the stuff that's worked. But I think it's great because once you start on that journey, you meet other people, and you get ideas from them or inspired, as I did with you, all those years ago, and all those things. It's just bricks. It's steps, and it lays that foundation.
It's baby steps. We can afford to make small mistakes with small baby steps,
Yep.
But you know,
Yep.
you take
I'd say, yeah, and don't get too, don't get too bogged down with get too worried about doing it right or doing this or that, or I need all this tools or I need all these equipment or whatever. I just to go and just do anything and just get out there and just do the best you can with what you got, and then just build from there and just take those little baby steps.
Yep.
Like you said, that's
Yep.
how journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And
Exactly.
I think that anytime you're doing something in a creative field, you've got these steps that don't seem like they're going anywhere. And sometimes, it seems it could be a little discouraging. I mean, I remember my first year in the Festival of the Arts in Laguna, I'd done art and I thought it was pretty decent, but it was, you never know. And so I put it out there and, people were like, oh yeah, it's cool. Sold nothing. Didn't sell a single thing, like for flush money.
You didn't sell anything?
Didn't sell a single thing. I'm like, oh, maybe it's not that good, whatever. I was invited to come back the next year, and I'm like, oh, I'll keep going, and whatever. And so I did it, and the next year everything sold. So you never know with this stuff, and it's just about being persistent and just keep taking steps in a direction,
and be willing to take the risks.
Yeah, be willing to fail. Don't be afraid of failing, because it happens all the time.
Yeah, only 1% of the people are going to ever do it. Very few people will actually take the risk. And Dave's a perfect example of that video you posted 4 years ago, Dave, of you eating some moro out of a bone, out of a swordfish spine.
I'm hot spotting off my phone to be able to be out in the barn, so sorry if there's any.
That's all right. No, it's good. But Dave posted a video, 4 years ago, and it got, 4 likes?
Yeah. And then we posted it again. Right now it has 57 million views in a month and a half. 57 million views in a month and a half.
And that's a perfect example, David, of what Casey is saying. That is that you posted something 4 years ago, they got nothing. You got 4 likes. I mean, by all intent and purposes, that was a failed video. If you stayed with it and you kept working and you kept plugging and you kept creating, and 4 years later, you repost the same video and it's got 58 million views. So I think a lot of it is, like you were saying, Casey, it's being true to yourself, creating from your heart, and just putting out a true product in an honorable fashion, if you will, straight up, and letting that brand grow. So, if you're starting out and you run into some obstacles, which you're going to do, there's some hard edges out there. There's no question. Just circumvent those hard edges and keep plugging.
Look at that art. Isn't that incredible?
Breathtaking. I don't know how big that piece is. And I'm guessing it's like 8-10 feet, isn't it, Casey?
Somewhere around there. I think it's probably somewhere around 8 feet. Yeah, something like that.
It's an 8-foot piece of archway of a stairwell, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in a residence. But yeah, and using the different materials. I mean, I like the different woods and metals, and combining that. I mean, again, it's storytelling, right? It's a different form of storytelling than obviously the film work and all that, but it's storytelling. And to kind of select the different materials that best kind of capture that, whatever it is, that species or that flow or whatever, I think that's probably why I got into doing wood, metal, and stone, because I just didn't want to be limited by the materials. So,
and the way you blend them together is seamless. That's what blows my mind. It's like, I don't see how you blend metal and wood and stone into the same sculpture and have it turn out like it's just a seamless piece of work.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Spectacular.
Yeah, that's what a kelp bed in Laguna Beach, California looks like, gang. Those of you that have never got to fish there and will never ever get to fish there, that's kind of what it looks like. Billions of fish, kelp, no shortage of fish in Laguna, just shortage of brains is the only problem in Laguna. That's the only problem. It's unbelievable that we can't fish right out in front of Main Beach. Isn't that beautiful there to get up in the morning, boys, and drive down to get a cup of coffee down there and see all the liberals standing on the beach with their rainbow clothes on?
Well, hopefully we're seeing a red wave.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know.
It's one of the few clear water places where you can actually get in and dive and see stuff. And again, I mean, growing up spearfishing and all that, I mean, I really think going and all the years of spear fishing and getting lobsters and all that stuff, for me, that really instilled a lot of respect and love for all these different species out there, and I think that's a big part of what led to me doing the sculptures that I'm doing.
You were saying instill the love. Talk to me about taking your kids out.
Oh, that's been the best thing ever. So I've got 2 kids, Brooks and Koa. Brooks is 8, Koa is 2, and getting them out, and I mean, again, getting them out in the water, getting them down to the beach, getting them out in the hills where they're getting, it's been really fun for me because, going the tide pools and stuff, it's like you see it again fresh through their eyes, and it's just such a beautiful experience doing that, and seeing the growth and the excitement. We go down, we feed the octopus in the tide pools like I did when I was a kid, or putting a mask on them and rowing out. I got a rowboat that I keep down at the beach, and we take it out rowing and hop in the kelp and swim around, what Brooks does now. And so it's been awesome. And I think that's my uncle, and family members and stuff took me out when I was a kid and did all that stuff. And, I think it's a tradition. It's a family tradition. I mean, I think it's part of our culture is getting out and getting out in the water and enjoying the wildlife that's out there and seeing all the stuff that's there. And, I think hunting and supplementing your diet off the stuff that you catch, there's nothing more fun than bringing home food that you caught yourself and cooking it up for your friends and family. Like that's the essence of I mean, it's just there's something very elemental about that really is a wonderful feeling.
It's in our DNA. It's in our DNA.
It's deep in our DNA. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you something, gang, if you're missing out on people talking to you, take your spear gun, take the spear out of it, take the bands off, just take your spear gun and go down to Main Beach and go swimming for a little while. And if you want people to talk to you, there'll be a phenomenal amount of people that will come down and talk to you. It's absolutely amazing how many people are so worried about what we're doing. It's kind of fun. I just have a good time playing with people. I'm sorry. Wouldn't it suck, Casey, to jump in the water in front of your house there in Laguna and get to go out there and harvest some of those beautiful halibut or white sea bass that are living in front of your house?
Man, it's I do miss getting out and being able to do that. I mean, it sounds like they might be closing up South Laguna too, which
they're trying.
A huge bummer. Yeah, so
they're trying, but I'll guarantee you, I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. I'm going to take my 800,000 followers, and we're going to go to every meeting that they have because that's absolutely ridiculous. There's this booger-eating moron that's going to all these meetings telling us that all the fish are gone in Laguna. They're all gone. I'm sorry, you got me going. I was at a meeting when we revisited the MPAs, when they were going to tell us if they were going to open them or not. And somebody from Laguna Beach, California, got up in the middle of the meeting and said that the water inside the MLP, which is Laguna Beach, is cleaner than the water outside of the MLP. Now, you spend a lot of time in the water. Have you seen that wall that they built around Laguna?
the glass wall?
Yeah, there has to be. If the water's cleaner in there, then that would mean there's no current anymore, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a very current free. Yeah. No, it's I mean, it all flows. I mean, again, it's all part of a huge ecosystem.
Yeah, it's like
but yeah, I think to shut down one of the last remaining clear water spots, for me, it makes me really sad for my sons because I'm really, I mean, obviously I like getting out and doing all this stuff for myself, but I'm really excited about them in learning those skills and, getting that exposure to the environment and going out and catching food and getting lobsters and fish. And, that's a hard thing to do as a free diver if all the clear water spots around on the at least coastally here are prohibited. So it'd be a sad thing if that ends up getting shut down completely like that. I'm concerned about that for all of us, but for me, for my kids,
for the next generation. That's kind of what they're going to do with fishing is shut the sport down completely. They want to abolish it. I mean, the left extremists want to abolish the sport. They said man should only interact with nature as an observer, period. And it's just so far outside reality. I mean, like you said, it's in our DNA. It's deep in our DNA. And
we're part of nature.
Yeah, we are. We're a part of it.
We're part of nature. I think that, going out and being, obviously being respectful to the animals that are out there. Nobody hates those disrespectful asshole spear fishermen or whatever that are just going out and just smearing shit all over everywhere, worse than the guys, all us fishermen that do care about all this stuff and do love the wildlife that's out there and do respect it. I mean, you can, I don't see why. I don't see why there has to be this distance between us and nature, because I think the more distance that there is, the more disconnected we all become from it, and the less anybody even cares about it ultimately.
Absolutely.
I think there's nobody that cares more about fish and the wildlife and the lobsters and all that stuff than the people that are intimately connected to those things, because they go and hunt them. And you have to really know the way that fish think to be an effective fisherman. You have to really know the way how a lobster behaves to go out and dive for them. And I think that, in learning those animals, you have to learn a lot of respect for them. And I think once there's a huge disconnect, I think that it becomes something that's just there that people forget about. And once it's forgotten about, it's not nobody cares.
Nobody's going to protect it.
Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to really go out of their way to protect it in a lot of ways.
That's exactly what Flip Pallett said, Casey, was that his biggest fear is that we aren't bringing youth into the sport. And if you don't teach youth to respect and admire something like nature, it's going to disappear. It'll be gone.
Yeah. And I think the interaction is really important.
Absolutely.
I think that for me, again, growing up and, finding shells and looking at the tide pools and feeding the octopus and all that stuff. That was a huge thing when I was a little guy. Then getting in and diving and spearfishing, and all that stuff. It just, I think that the interaction, that hunting and that interacting and having a goal and a mission out when you're out there, causes you to go so much farther than you would if you're just an observer. Yeah, I think it's huge. So I think everybody's, there's so many kids. Everybody's so concerned about kids, not getting outside, not doing this. But then there's so many barriers that are put up for them to be able to go outside. It's like, it's just the freedom that I had playing growing up. It was wide open. We did whatever we wanted. I was tromping through the hills, hiking around, cutting trails, and doing whatever, and getting out in the water. It's pure freedom. And I think once you take away the freedom and over-regulate stuff, it becomes a lot less enticing for people to actually want to go out and do it, and then they just don't do it.
It's too hard.
You see a generation of kids that that doesn't. There's a loss of that culture, and I think that would be tragic.
David, you had a really good little video clip about taking your kids fishing. What was the essence of that video?
Well, I try to break it down so that day that you take your children fishing should be the day that you do not use the word no. They can have candy that day. They can have sodas. They can do anything they want. They can kill all the bait. They can do anything they want, because when we lose them, we lose them. And it's the first day that you take your child fishing is the day you're going to determine if your child likes fishing or not. So if that day's filled with no's, then there's a good chance they're not going to enjoy themselves. I tell everybody, charge the phone. Get it as hot as it can possibly be. They get to play with their phone that day. They get to drink sodas that day. They get to eat candy that day. Because the three of us, we're not going out fishing if we can't check our phone every 5 minutes. I don't care if you even like to or not. You're still looking, because that's how we make a living. We go, oh, well, that's how I make a living. Oh, I got caught looking at this TikTok video. But you're not going to take children out fishing and tell them today's the day you don't get to play video games. If you do start putting all the no's on it, well, I don't want to go either. And if you make it so that it's not fun, then they're not going to go. You only got one chance. And if you blow it, it's gone forever. You and I, with the three of us, know plenty of our friends that don't like to fish, and it's because someone blew it the first time they took them. They made it a negative experience. And then the other thing I did with my kids when they were little, and a lot of our members have done it now, we'll take home whatever fish they catch. It's the best fish in the world. You never say, oh, you caught another mackerel. Oh, you caught another short bass. Whatever fish it is, it's the best fish in the world, okay? And then On the way home, we stop at McDonald's or Jack in the Box, whatever fast food garbage you like to put in your body, and you get some chicken McNuggets or whatever you get, and take the kids home, tell them take a shower, put those chicken McNuggets on a cookie sheet, put it in the oven, pull it out, tell them it's their fish. You won. You absolutely won.
It's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yep.
It works every time. Now your kids, you didn't make it a negative experience. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, Casey, and your kids are looking at you going, Dad, can we go fishing? You just won. That's like getting the lottery, gang. You can't do that in Laguna. I understand that, but you got Dana Point and you got Newport. You could still drive 20 minutes up or down the coast. I believe, though, in my heart, this is what I believe from what we just saw with this sand bass thing, Michael. Now that they're removing the free money from the quote unquote people that care about the environmentalists, they don't care. What they care about is that free government cheese they were getting.
Oh, it's the trough. It's not
now that we've taken the government cheese away, I don't think you're going to see that many of them showing up at the meetings in Laguna or the meetings in Sacramento. They're not going to show up. Once you take away, Casey, they don't care about the environment as much as they want you to believe they do in Laguna. They care about that government cheese, baby, that money. Once that money's gone, they don't care about they don't even know what the hell the environment. You look at those people that are trying to shut us down, they've never stuck their head underwater. They have no idea how many fish. You and I and Michael know that we can put our head under the water at Main Beach, and we don't even have to get deeper than 5 feet of water. And we're going to see more fish than most people have ever seen in their whole life. There's no shortage of fish. There's shortage of brains. There's shortage of knowledge. We're getting to see that on a daily basis. And pretty soon, I think that we're going to be able to start opening up stuff. And I hope to God we get to open Laguna. If enough of us show up at the meetings, they won't get to close any more of it. And maybe we'll get to see stuff open up again, which would be pretty bitchin'. Because we never thought Orange Man would be prez again.
Yep. Even if they just do a crop rotation where they move the MPLs up, and let like a crop rotation. You don't grow on that section of land for a couple of years and let all those nutrients revitalize themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we could do the same thing with the MPLs. Instead of just closing one section, you let them be a rotating.
Well, no, because that's something that they polluted everyone's heads with. Casey, Michael, and David fishing with our grandkids and our children will never have an effect on the population of the fish. So yeah, rotate would be cool, but then that would mean that there was an actual problem, but there's not a problem. There's not, you can never tell me, Casey, that you're such a good diver that you could actually hurt the population of abalone in Laguna.
No, I definitely, same with lobsters. I mean, all that stuff, there's a well-managed, respected resource. I feel like it's something that, again, the goal is for our grandkids to be able to get out and do what we did and continue this culture, right? So I think that, I think there's a lot to be said for it being respected and not being abused or whatever. But I agree. I think there's a ton of life out there. It's amazing. So.
Yeah, I've been trying for so long to catch that last fish, and every time I go, they're still there. It pisses me off. And I need, I built that website to teach people how to catch fish because I need everybody to help me. I want to be the guy that catches the last fish, but if I don't have everybody helping me, I keep going out there and it's like I'm fighting an endless battle. It's just like, it's the most uphill battle. Every time I go to these spots that Michael showed me that he fished with his dad when they were little, and he's way older than I am, there's still fish there. It's pissing me off, man. I don't get it. And I kill as many as I possibly can legally by law, and they're still there. So like, I don't know. I need all of you to help me.
What we've said all along, David, is you cannot hurt a fishery with a rod, a reel, and a piece of string.
Yep. It's pretty true. And to have to think that there'll be a time, well, we changed the tide here a little bit, but there could be a time where the only way we're going to see any of this stuff is Casey's art on the wall, which is pretty sad to think that they want to go there.
Tragic. Yeah, God. No, I don't want to be making any sculptures of extinct species. that we used to enjoy.
No, you can't do it with the fishing pole. I don't care how good you are.
No, absolutely.
But they want to close it to people
with the
going
closers,
out
yeah.
there.
No, I think that it's, again, I mean, I think getting people out, my big thing, and we've talked about it. I mean, every time I go to the beach now, I'm bringing my kids with me. We're doing everything. It's, as you said, I mean, Dave, your advice on that was spot on. When I go and do, take them out diving or rowing or fishing or whatever, it's not about me. It's about them having the best day ever. Brooks, I remember his first mackerel he ever caught was off our rowboat, and he was so pumped on it. I mean, it was like more pumped than somebody catching a bluefin tuna. And he had this mackerel, and he's walking it up the stairs. We're going to eat this thing, and he's showing everybody, and check this out. And I mean, we cooked it, and he was like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. I mean, it was just, but that joy and that stoke is so critical and so beautiful. And I would not want to deny that to my kids or anybody else's kids that are out there. And I think that it's such an important part of our history.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Jump on the train here with me, because that's where we're headed, to save fishing in America.
Okay.
What do you got, Michael?
I'm it. Casey just summed it all up. Both of you guys have. It's all about the kids fishing and giving them that experience of a lifetime.
And I'm putting the QR code back up for Michael's History of Sport Fishing. You can also, Casey's going to give you one more run through his social media platform. But if you want to see this show we've been talking about today, and we talk about every Tuesday, the history of sport fishing with all the other clips from inside sport fishing, the QR code's up there right now. And the rest of you that are listening on Spotify, Apple, Megaphone, just go to the history of sport fishing on wherever you stream your videos, and you can find the history of sport fishing. Download it. You will not be disappointed. You're going to learn so much. Grab it and watch it with your children and get them involved. It's an incredible 12-part docuseries, better than any of the other garbage out there. You're actually going to learn about the United States of America and what a great country this is. And then, Casey, how can they get a hold of you one last time? Hello?
Casey, you there? Looks like it's Casey Parlett Sculptures. And check him out on his Instagram, Casey Parlett.
There you go, gang. Thank you all for watching today. Have a great day. Turn off the news. They're all lying, and I'll see you.